The only thing left to do now is to create the water in the riverbed and then add some background and set up a camera. So let's get right into it, and we can start again by adding a plane. So let's press Shift A and add a plane. And now I want to scale this up a little bit, so tab into the edit mode, and I will scale this on the x-axis 4 times. So S then X, and let's enter 4 on the numpad and confirm with the enter. And now we can scale it up on y-axis as well, so press S then Y and scale it up 1.5. That will be enough, I think, to cover the river. We can check it out from the top by switching to the wireframe view, and everything looks good. So let's go back to the solid view. Let's rotate this a little bit, and we'll move this down so the water surface can go through the rocks there. So press G then Z and move this down like this. And now we can extrude this down. So press E then Z and extrude down. And again, as before, we can press A to select all and press Shift N to consolidate or recalculate normals. And now I just want to scale this on the x-axis tiny bit so it doesn't go all the way out here. So let's press S then X and scale it down like this. This will give us the nice stylized look. Okay, now let's toggle the X-ray and let's go to the edge select and select these 2 edges on the top. So I will select this one and shift click here. And now I want to subdivide this twice. So let's right click, choose subdivide and increase number of cuts to 2. The reason why I subdivided only the edges and didn't create loops, I don't want to create any more geometry here. I'm fine with n-gons there. I just want to subdivide the top, and I wanted to subdivide the top geometry into a more even faces, because now if I right click and choose subdivide, we'll get those nice rectangular faces. They are not so long and wouldn't distort the water too much. And we can continue by subdividing this few more times, and you can increase the number of cuts, but that's a linear way to subdivide, and often I find it easier to just click few times, and I think 5 subdivision should be okay. We did the first one before and now it was 4 subdivisions, and this is sometimes basically faster way how to do this than set the number of cuts. That would be linear. If you do it repeatedly, that's exponential. So now we have a surface geometry, and we can now go to the object data properties and create a vertex group that will serve as a selection group for the displace modifier. So let's create a new group and let's click assign, and we can name this surface. And really don't forget to click assign. And now we can tab out, toggle the X-ray, let's zoom in a little bit, and we can go to the modifiers tab and add the displace modifier. And now we can select the surface vertex group. And don't worry about this. First of all, we want to switch the direction, not to normal. We don't want to go into the direction of the face normals. We just want to go on the Z axis. So let's choose Z. And you will see these changes. Now it only goes up. And the one thing left to do is to actually add some texture here. So let's click new on the texture slot, and let's click this little button to switch to the texture edit. And we can choose the clouds texture here. So as you can see, the displacement goes only in the Z direction. So we have a nice flat sides here. And we can modify the size a little bit. We can go up here, I think, to something like 0.5. So the waves are a little bit larger. And now switch to the modifier tab again, and we'll reduce the strength to something like 0.2. So we have subtle waves there. Now the only thing left to right click and shade smooth, and we can go to the object data properties and enable auto smooth to make this side flat, and there's our water. And if you don't like how this interacts with your rocks, you can either move rocks around, which I will do right now, or you can move the surface up and down, whatever works for you. So that's the water, and now we can set up the camera. And you already know, in the introduction episode I've talked about the ISOCAM add-on that I use to quickly set up an orthographic camera. So we can now press N to expand the sidebar, go to the PR ISOCAM tab and add True ISOCAM. So the True ISOCAM is basically the isometric view, which will produce 4:3 ratio for your isometric tiles. And now we can go ahead and change the resolution to 4:3 ratio as well. So let's go to the output properties and let's enter 1600 to 1200. And additionally, we can press G then Z and move the camera up a little bit so we better center the scene. Okay, and now let's press Shift A and we'll add another plane, and we can just press S and scale it out of bounds of the camera. This will serve as our background, and now we can just move it down a little bit. So let's look from the front by pressing 1 on a numpad, and we can press G then Z and move it down to touch the diorama from the bottom like this. And let's hit 0 on the numpad to go back to the camera view. And basically this is all of the modeling. Now all is in place, all the objects, water, background, everything. So we can move on to the next part and add some materials.